Peace. Welcome to the Lion Share Podcast. I'm your humble host, Red Lion 718. As for this joint I'm going to touch on today, what women did to ruin me, or what women ruined me. Now, this title may be a little bit misleading, but believe it or not, what I'm going to touch on here is going to be the whole sexual imprinting thing. You know what I mean? Shout out to Dr. Yao Morris. And of course, by proxy, I would say shout out to the field master, as he is known, Ron Webbs, right? Now, this I'm probably going to end up breaking down into, it's a different segment. I'll probably name it For the Culture. Because truth be told, when we start throwing around, passport bros and moving around and you need game and this, that, and the third, truth be told, a lot of this stuff is just cultural, man. And if you talk about our culture, specifically, black culture, this stuff is toxic. Point blank, period. We throw around the word toxic, we play with it, but truthfully, it really is toxic, man. Shit is nasty. But what I'm gonna touch on here, let's start off with Mom Dukes, man. R.I.P. Mom Dukes. You know what I mean? We definitely had a very unique relationship. You know what I mean? I'm not going to speak ill of the dead, but she definitely had her faults. But if we had to start with Mom Dukes and we talking about how she ruined me for this particular culture, this particular society, let's dive in. First and foremost, Mom Dukes, I don't ever remember my mother wearing fake hair, like ever. You know what I mean? If you've ever seen my mother out and about, you would swear she was Spanish, which she wasn't. You know what I mean? Because of, the jet black, little curly hair with a straight hair, whatever it is she did with her hair, it wasn't fake. You know what I mean? So we're going to touch on that first and foremost. Secondly, you know what I mean? God bless her dad. There are very few instances where my mother cursed at me. You know what I mean? Obviously, she had her ways. You know what I mean? There's definitely, a lot of manipulation going on, and we'll touch on that in a different video, but there was none of that. You just like your father and this, that, and the third. It was very little of that. Very, very, very little of that stuff. So all that being cursed out in the middle of the street and being yelled at, and I don't recall a lot of that stuff. So when it's time for me to go out and, conduct myself, the way I was living in that particular household, and then I had to go out into the street, i.e. the Bronx, Harlem, North Carolina, South Carolina, Maryland, the DC area, and everywhere in between, seeing the way people had to deal with our quote unquote women was completely foreign and alien to me. I have no clue what the hell that was. You know what I mean? So when I say that ruined me for this, it ruined me for this society. Like, why are you yelling at me? Because I'm looking like, for all intents and purposes, my mother doesn't yell at me. My mother doesn't curse at me like that. You know what I mean? My mother doesn't feel the need to belittle me, It was one of those things like you can do whatever you want. Now, obviously, I may not have had all of the backing that I needed, or all of the understanding that I needed, or the tutelage, or having tutors, male mentors. I can go down the laundry list of some of the shortcomings, or some of the things, some of the holes, and some of the gaps and things that I was missing, or in some instances, some of the ways I was kneecapped. Another video. However, if we're just talking about for this particular culture, don't get it. Completely foreign. I don't know what that is. Hair-hatted hooligans and what Tommy Sotomayor be talking about, BT 1000s. If I'm just talking about just from that particular imprint, no clue what that is. Clueless. You know what I mean? Now let's talk about, somebody else. God bless her dad, my Aunt Dora. You know what I mean? Church lady, fair skin. What was she? God, oh man, I think she was a home attendant. So, she was in the constant care, of other people. She was also Yardie. Shout out to my Yardie. She was a West Indian. She's Jamaican. You know what I mean? Cool St. Mary's. You know what I mean? Shout out to Ocho Rios, St. Mary's, Kingston. You know what I mean? Shout out to my people out there. They got their head on straight. But, Aunt Dora, you know what I mean? How she kind of screwed me up for being part of this culture. Aunt Dora, went to church all the time, had the church hat. But the thing was, away from the fake Christian thing, she was through and through what I would look at as a Christian woman. I don't ever remember Aunt Dora saying anything negative about anybody. Now, maybe she may have kept that from me because I was so young or whatever the case may be, but I don't even think Aunt Dora stepped on roaches. I think she kind of shooed them out of the house with a Jamaican accent because I don't ever remember her saying anything negative to anyone. And as that was, kind of instilled in me to some degree, well, not instilled, but as that was something that I witnessed, that's another thing. I'm like, wow, here goes this, this real sweet lady, doesn't curse, doesn't argue, doesn't fight. I'm like, okay, this is somebody I want to be around. I miss Aunt Dora. God bless her dad. I miss Aunt Dora, man. I do. You know what I mean? And as for the third segment, I look like I'm really speeding along through this, man. But the third thing that ruined me, and actually this was just a shift, was when I moved from New York City to the DC, Maryland area, more specifically Prince George's County, Maryland. Now, shout out to the fellas, they definitely put that out there. I was like the last one to know, but in terms of choosing signals and choosing, period, it's going to be, in terms of aggressive, women who are more straightforward about their choosing, it's going to be Washington, D.C., by proxy, Prince George's County, Maryland, Detroit, Houston, Atlanta. I can speak to Atlanta, I can speak to the D.C., Maryland area, and to some degree, I can speak to Detroit. Can't speak to Houston. But in terms of choosing, they definitely let it be known where they stand and what it is that they want. Now, how this kind of ruined me, at least specifically for New York, being in New York, especially Harlem, if you know nothing about Harlem, there's a lot of money that flows through there, legal and illegal. And everybody's about money, 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 money. You ain't got no money. This is, I'm definitely telling my age, but this is when, people wore jerseys and, oh, let me see the tag on your jersey. Ew, that's a Reebok, not a Nike. Okay, that's a Nike, but it's not the official. It's not the $400 joint, the $300 joint. You know what I mean? Let me see your sneakers. Ew, your sneakers don't match your hat. Your hat don't match the jersey, yada, yada, yada. I go down to the D.C., Maryland area, and it was like shooting fish in a barrel. Now, don't get it twisted. That doesn't mean I got everything that I wanted. Please don't get it twisted. But when we talk about, shout out to the field master, Ron Wells, when you talk about select, non-select, I definitely had my choice out there. You know what I mean? Definitely had more than a few joints, more than a fair share of what I thought I should actually have, way more. You know what I mean? The best way to describe it, and I laugh about it to this day, it's kind of like you talk to the Most High, whether it's God, whoever, and you're like, yo, I just want a bike. I just want a bike. I want a bicycle. I want to be like everybody else. I want a Huffy, little 10-speed joint. Well, if there's a 10-speed, let me get a 5-speed. I'm cool with that. Moving to Prince George's County, Maryland, was like asking God for a bike and getting a Corvette. You know what I mean? Now you don't look at bikes or cars the same. Like, you were just ruined for everybody. Like, yo, the hell with everybody. I done drove a Corvette. I can never drive a Toyota Corolla again. I'm done for. You know what I mean? But what spun everything around was because everyone was so straightforward, because everyone was, a lot of the chicks was choosing. I was fresh meat. You know what I mean? If I had to paint a picture for you, you know what I mean? I was, you know what I mean? What do they call it? Street chic, so to speak, in terms of, oh, that was bars. I didn't even know that rhyme. But nah, just in terms of the attire, late 90s, early 2000s, I had the apparel that says, yo, I'm on the block and I'm getting money. And to a degree, a lot of that knucklehead in me, yeah, I definitely had the attitude to go with it. So they were just enthused. They were riding me around like I was a New York City mascot. And I want to say that was for a few years. So when you compare people who actually dig you, like, who is this chubby guy with the curly hair? Like, I think he's black. He can't quite be black. You know what I mean? Shout out to Black Mom when he talks about, certain features. Y'all can't see it now, no hat fish. I take the hat off, fresh baldy and all that. But, curly hair, the water on it, bang, it's curly. Street apparel, attitude, complete knucklehead. So it was, it was a field day. But try to compare that to being in New York, which for all intents and purposes, you got to have game, you got to have mouthpiece, you got to have swag, you got to do this, you got to do that. And that's just to get the bare minimum. The bare minimum. You do all that to get the bare minimum. And I peeped that. And I think that's what shaped and molded so much for me. Because, I'm doing all this, all this fighting, all this arguing, and y'all gotta wear this, the whole gang thing had kind of kicked off in the late 90s in New York. It's like, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, this flag, that flag, I gotta know this handshake and that handshake, and this block and that block, and this borough and that borough. And I go down to Maryland, I'm like, I don't have to do none of that shit. Complete spoiled me, like, I don't have to do none of this shit. Like, word, he from New York, and I ain't gonna hold you. Being from New York, anything past Pennsylvania is country as far as we're concerned. We've gotten better with it, being so, so arrogant with it. But we definitely like, this shit's country as hell. So I'm going down there, they want to take me places. I'm a mascot. They want to drive me here and there. You know what I mean? I'm seeing people's aunties and, he's so caramel, he this, that, and the third. And I'm confused. I'm like, I'm going from maybe a chick might punch you in the arm and be like, he kind of cute, but I don't really like him. And, I don't know. And all that to, you got people's uncles giving me, giving me dirty looks. Like, don't look at me. That's your wife. I don't know why she keep calling me caramel and rubbing on me and trying to feed me and shit. You know what I mean? This chubby shit is just because I'm lazy. Like, I'm not even that greedy. You know what I mean? But that definitely changed my outlook on, how I dealt with the opposite sex. Because I'm like, wait a minute. If all I have to do is quote unquote exist, and I'm getting this type of attention, you know what I mean? They literally throwing it at me, you know what I mean? Inviting me places I really don't want to go. Because truth be told, I'm not going to hold you. You know what I mean? I'll talk a hole in your head if we cool, but by and large, I'm not a people person like that. You know what I mean? I'm really not. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, because of where my mind state was at, a lot of my colleagues and former friends and all that, all former friends, don't get it twisted, all former friends are phony homies. A lot of them were, into the street life, this, that, and the third. So I'm coming below the, quote unquote, below the Mason-Dixon line, and I got these drugs and that drugs, and I do this and I do that, and I put weapons over here, and this, and I'm just looking at these people sideways like, please stop telling me about criminal activity. I'm really not interested. Please stop doing that. Yeah, man, these my 50s. You got people showing me drugs. I'm like, fam, please stop showing me drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even do drugs, homie. Like, G shit, I don't even do drugs. You know what I mean? I'll play along with you and key with you, but I don't do no fucking drugs, man. Cut that out. Man, I got these bros over here. Like, you must think I'm simple. You know what I mean? Like, I've navigated some of the worst areas in New York City. You really think I'm gonna go to a strange place with a stranger to deal with some women that I've never met? You done lost your damn mind. I'm good. I'll even say some cornball shit like, son, I jerked off while I got here. Just some weirdo shit to get you out of my face. You know what I mean? But like, I say all that to say, when it comes to this culture, if you have different experiences, which is why I never step on the passport community, because that's a video in and of itself. Coming from New York City and literally being inside a rainbow coalition, literally, like, I'll go next door, you got live poultry, you got chickens and all that, people walking in and out of the house. You got people with chickens walking in and out of the crib and all that, rooster going off 4 or 5 in the morning. They Dominican. I go down the block. My man is also Dominican. We got the same birthday. He could pass for white, but he's Dominican. You go in the same building, you go upstairs. His people, they were Ghanaian. You know what I mean? Then you got, the American blacks over here. Then you go down the block, you got the Puerto Rocks, the Puerto Ricans over here. You know what I mean? You got the entire rainbow coalition thing going. So and don't even get me started on the corner store. Don't even get me started on the food that I was raised on. Because trust and believe, I wasn't raised on, hot wings, fries, and cheeseburgers and all that other shit. You know what I mean? So when you mix all that together, you take me below the Mason-Dixon line where people, it's what, literally, what PG County, Maryland is what, 70, 80% black maybe? You put me around all these black people who really don't, their biggest thing is I be in DC, and then you throw somebody like me into the mix, and I know how to talk, and I know how to maneuver, how to navigate. I know how to dress myself pretty well. You know what I mean? I got all my teeth. You know what I'm saying? It's a completely different dynamic. So of course, I'm gonna have my pick of the litter. You know what I mean? But when you say all that, and I'm having my pick of the litter, I'm having attractive women come my way, I'm having them treat me somewhat fair. Especially the joints that really like you, they treat you like you gold. That's a completely different video on them being man-starved and all that. Same thing with Atlanta. A lot of them are man-starved. They don't know what a man is, whatever. Now, if you're talking about what it is now, it's a complete shit show. I'm pretty sure Xanatos Clutch can let you know what it is. It's a complete shit show. You know what I mean? But I didn't mean for this to, go on as long as it did and me to ramble and go on in different directions. But I say all that to say that once you've had a different experience and it's been positive, or not even positive, once you have the foundation laid on how you should be treated, how you should be respected, or dealing with a culture that honors men so that you're not just a thing, you're not a penis, you're not an unpaid bodyguard, you're not you're not a wallet, and people actually treat you a certain way, it's difficult for you to move backwards, which is why I support the passport gang, which is why I support, quote unquote, leaving the West, which is why I support, putting yourself first. Because if you don't put yourself first, if you don't treat yourself with respect, people will treat you like whatever. You know what I mean? If you respond to, garbage, they're going to treat you like garbage. You know what I mean? So if you don't take nothing else, from this whole little ramble that I had going, you know what I mean? Definitely understand that it's not, don't get it twisted, it's not completely always about women, but being as though more than half the population is women, unless you're a hermit, you're going to have to deal with them in some capacity or another. And more than anything, especially as a black man, you definitely need to go somewhere where you are celebrated, whether that's the next town over, the next city over. And the way it's looking, in all fairness, the next country over, man, because this ain't it. This ain't it. It is not your job to do everything under the sun to get the bare minimum. But I think I've rambled long enough, man. As always, like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm definitely trying to get my numbers up. Definitely going to get this message out. And as always, Red Lion 718. Peace.